Ready? Remember, say happy birthday. Ready?
Are we all in?
We're all in. Ready? Here we go.
Happy birthday,
Grandma Marge! Many, many more. Happy 90th.
Happy 90.
Happy 90th. Woo! Woo! Happy birthday! Woo woo! Yay, Grandma! Woo! Come on, they're gonna participate.
This is my producer. In more ways than one, as you all know. Mom, like to wish you happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy 90th birthday.
birthday. We love you.
Bye.
Happy 90th birthday, Grandma.
Mom, you've been so warm and welcoming to me since I joined the family. Now is a good time to tell you how much I appreciate it, and you. I appreciate it more than words can say. Love you much, and happy birthday,
Mom.
Happy birthday, Grandma Marge.
Thanks for all the love and laughter over all the years.
Thanks for having fun with me and caring.
Thank you for always putting others before yourself.
Thank you for all the joyful comments you've gave me over the years.
Thanks for all the great conversation at the dinner table. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Grandma.
Happy birthday! We love you!
Happy birthday, Grandma.
Happy birthday, Grandma. Cheers to 90 years of good health and a good, loving family.
We hope you have an amazing year and many to come. Love you.
Happy 90th birthday, Grandma Merrick.
Happy birthday, Grandma. Love you. You say hi, Jason.
Say hi, Jason. Hi.
Love you. Happy birthday.
Happy 90th birthday party. Love you so much.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
Grandma Margie.
Happy birthday to you. Yay!
Happy birthday, Grandma Margie.
Happy birthday, Margie.
Jack, say happy birthday, Grandma Margie. Say happy birthday, Grandma Margie.
Happy birthday, Grandma Margie.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Grandma Marge. Happy birthday to you. Happy 90th, Grandma. We love you so much, and we are so excited to be celebrating with you, and to many more. Cheers. Adios, amiga.
Adios. Hi, great grandma. I hope you have the best birthday ever. We love you. Happy birthday.
All the best to you, great Grandma Marge, and many more years of health and good and happiness.
Happy birthday. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Wait, I need to tell you something. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy 90th birthday, Grandma Marge. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Grandma Marge. Happy birthday to the five. Yay! Love you, Grandma.
Love you.
Happy 90th.
Yay.
Mother, I'm wishing you a happy 90th birthday. You've done really super for the 90 years. I mean, most people cannot even get to that point, let alone being able to talk, speak, and walk, and you can do all of the above with no problem. And I want to thank you for being in our lives all these years, and especially with my kids. You've definitely always been there for all their activities, baptisms, communions, etc., and appreciate it. And the kids, I'm sure, care a lot about you because, you, like you said, you've been there, been with us a lot, which is cool. And so I'm happy that, and I hope you have 10, 20 more happy years. And I'm glad that you're my mother. Love you, bye. Mom, what do you love most about Grandma Marge? Her kindness. What is her go-to saying? There are a few, I think. Who? Her favorite food she made while you guys were growing up. Swiss steak. We gotta
All right. There you go.
Hi, Mom. They want us to kind of talk about you and reminisce about, you know, our past and all the good times and stuff like that, and some of our best memories. So Brock's going to ask me a few questions, and we'll see if we can reveal a few goodies here.
First question, what do you love about Grandma Marge?
Well, you know what I love the best is her strength of character. She is the strongest person I know, and so much of that is ideal for me because it's such an inspiration.
Excellent. What favorite food did you like while growing up?
Well, that's pretty easy. Spaghetti with meatballs is her fave, her go-to dish for all of us, and it's just the best.
What favorite childhood memory do you have of Grandma?
Well, the one that first comes to mind is when Carrie was a baby. She was a toddler, and Grandma was bathing her in the kitchen sink, and Carrie got her teeth caught up in the faucet, and Grandma panicked and removed Carrie from the faucet in a jerk and removed some teeth while she was at it. Carrie was toothless for a few years after that, and it's just a unique event.
Carrie's never been the same since. The last one is 3 words to describe Grandma Marge.
Again, just a very strong, determined personality, knows what she wants, and nobody's going to change her mind. She's just very determined. She's also very kind and loving. She, you know, always is there for family, and is always sweet and kind, especially to the little ones. Those always bring out the best part of her. She's always soft and loving towards little ones. And the most, you know, impressive character for Mom is her integrity. She's just so strong and determined and knows what she wants and knows what she likes, and nobody's going to change her mind about anything. And that's what I love about her.
What do you love most about Grandma, Aunt Connie?
I love Grandma's heart. I think she loves deeply, and I think she really thinks of other people before herself, always a servant. And I think she has a strong heart, as strong as in bold with life. And that really, I really admire that.
What is her go-to saying?
Mother blankers sons a bee. That's the fad. lately. She never used to swear when we were little kids or growing up, but man, she can cuss now, but I don't know what that's all about. She can rip a good one. It's like, what's going on anyway? So I think the way she talks about, honestly talks about people that she interacts with, you know, especially in the business world. She doesn't have too many kind words for a lot of people these days. But I think she honestly sees what's going on more than, and admits it more than most. It is, and has integrity about it, and just kind of, her honesty is a bit searing, but that's the fun. So.
What was her favorite food she made growing up that you liked?
Favorite food? I actually don't remember a single thing that Mother made that was so. Oh my gosh, isn't that awful? I mean, she made. We ate like kings and queens most of our lives. I mean, we really did. But I don't remember a single dish that was significant. She didn't do the spaghetti and meatballs when we were growing up. But I'm just saying, I don't remember anything that just really stood out. I love her pot roast. I mean, that's always good. But still, I mean, I can't think of one. We just ate well, as you can tell.
What's your favorite childhood memory of Grandma growing up?
I know she's going to defy this, but we used to say the rosary with our feet up on the register and in the living room, and we would, or kneel, and we would say the rosary with Mother. She doesn't remember doing that. I remember that. Often we used to say the rosary with her, and it was just a quiet, very loving time. Yeah, I just remember that. It was really kind of special.
What 3 words would you use to describe Grandma?
Feisty, strong, tender. Interesting word, huh? Because she tries to hide that, but I think there's a tenderness there that is quite unique. Well, happy birthday, Mom. I knew I wasn't going to get through this. We've been together through a lot of different things, starting way back in the Ann Arbor days. I think we ate in every restaurant in the frickin' town, and through a lot of hard things. And I really feel blessed to be with you all these years, the good and the bad. And so much of you is in my heart. And I think that, I think I'm very blessed to have a mother as great as you are. So I can't say anymore. That's it. Over.
This is my wonderful mom. Ma, this is probably going to turn out to be equally as professional as those videos in Hollywood, and I'm probably not going to get an Oscar for this performance, but it's created with the deepest of love and respect for you and great admiration of you as my mother. Now on to the answers to several questions. Okay, first question, what do I love most about you? Well, you know, sorry couldn't help on that one. It's a lot of things, but the top of my list is your toughness in the midst of hardship, your tenacity when faced with difficult challenges, and your spirit of never giving up and your independence. Those are all qualities that were passed down to each of us, simply by the example you have shown us. You know how to be tough and assertive when you need to, and you know how to be loving at the same time. Life's not been easy for you, Mom. You've faced many difficult challenges throughout your life. But one thing is certain, in the midst of it all, you keep trudging forward with undaunted courage and tenacity. Another is your strong sense of rightness and morality. You may have a slight challenge with tactfulness at times, but it's driven by your inner sense of good character and rightness. I admire that greatly, and your refusal to not compromise on what's right and wrong. So the next question is, what is your go-to saying? Well, you know, that saying of yours has found its way of being passed on to all of us children. The acorns didn't fall far from the tree on that one. But the other notable ones are, Do you want a sandwich? Are you hungry? Or, come on, don't you want some eggs? There are more, and especially the repetitive ones in which you're talking to yourself in the bathroom while taking a shower or getting dressed, which can't be said due to the children in the audience. Next question was favorite food you made when we were growing up. Let me see. Brian would probably answer that for me, saying it was chocolate stars, but you didn't make those because Crutchman's Five and Dime provided all those for us. I think it was the stew you made with all sorts of vegetables and ham. That was always great for those cold winter days. And then there was also that fabulous chicken, vegetables, and homemade dumpling soup you made, which was equally fabulous. Mom, you need to make that dish sometime. Been a long time since you made it for us. Never could really figure out, though, how you grew up in a total Italian home. I mean, Grandpa Jimmy and Grandma Grace couldn't be more Italian. They were oozing with Italian. But you didn't seem to cook the typical full-on Italian cuisine that often for us. I think it was probably because Dad just wanted meat and potatoes, you know, at 5:30 p.m. exactly. Once again, that's 5:30 p.m. exactly, unless, of course, a certain kitchen utensil was launched his way. And then, of course, the meal would happen when you got it ready. In any event, you're a fantastic cook. And what's so amazing about you, along with so many other things, is that you, after making and packing our lunches for school, working an 8-hour day at high school, would then come home from work and then cook for a family of 7. Every night, and the food was always homemade and great. No, really, it was great. Just look at my childhood pictures and you'd know just how great that food really was. Next question is my favorite childhood memory of you. You know how there are momentary events in our life that one just can't hardly figure out how the memory of them stick with us so close. And everybody has these. But you and I were on home in a summer day when we were out of school, and we were listening to the radio, and I was listening to what was on your radio as well. And it was a Detroit Tigers baseball game. I remember it as though it was 10 minutes ago. Dick Brown, the Tigers catcher at the time, hit a home run, and you got real excited and gave out a hoot and a holler over it. You didn't know anybody was listening, a precious moment as a young boy. You were a baseball fan and loved the same team as me and actually listened to the games on the radio, a memory that still is on the top level of my memory list. You loved baseball in your younger years. How great is that? Dad did too, of course, but there's just something about a mother loving baseball too. Don't get me wrong, there are so many more favorite memories, but this was just inspirational and was glued to my memory as a very special moment. Hard to explain these things. Next question, 3 words to describe you. Boy, that's a hard one. Right. Never gives up. Nothing more needs to be said, and it's a beautiful thing, and I admire you for it. Stomach in, shoulders back. Mom, words can't describe the love and deep respect I feel towards you as my mother. Your devotion to and unceasing toughness and care in raising all 5 of us, and your undaunted care and love in action toward our family and my brothers and sisters, and to my dad, and your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so many others, is imprinted on all of our memories. I simply can't describe in words how wonderful it was that you and Dad also gave us all the freedom to create, explore, innovate, socialize with our neighbors and friends without hovering over us constantly, and allowed us the freedom to experience our world and grow as a person from it, while learning the concepts of self-determination and responsibility. Love you deeply, Mom. Happy and blessed 90th birthday.
Hey everybody. Deep from the heart of Texas. Happy birthday, Mom. Just reflecting on some childhood memories and things that haven't been said need to be said about you. And my producer will give me the questions as we go, and I'll talk about them. So, question number 1.
What do you love most about your mother?
All right. Probably at the top of the list, probably pretty obvious, would be just the love and honor you deserve for bringing us into the world. That would be probably number 1 on that list. Also, just the time and the urgency of which you used to make sure that each one of us received religious instruction when we were young. In those days was a costly venture, and I'm sure it stretched the family budget. But you made sure and made a point of it that each of us were given the opportunity to use it or lose it, but the opportunity was given. And probably, lastly on that, I don't want to get carried away talking about, but probably for each one of us, and especially to me, is just the perseverance you've shown and demonstrated over your life in dealing with hard times, struggles, how to push through when life smacks you in the face, just to keep moving. And I think that's a life lesson that not only we've learned, that we'll pass on to our children and their children. And Mr. Producer, Mrs. Producer, the next question.
What is her go-to saying?
Oh, your go-to saying for me, and I'm sure a lot of the other kids and grandkids, would be, give me a break. But I would also add on to that, give me a break, you pot liquor. Or, in the plural sense, if there's more than 2 or 3 or 4 gathered at the table, you pot liquors. Next question.
What is your favorite food your mom made while growing up?
I don't think I could just say one thing, but probably in order of first to last, I'd say definitely spaghetti and meatballs would be number 1. You cook some fabulous different types of roasts, weekends, on Sundays, noodles and carrots, all that, and especially the fish fries, the no-meat Fridays. Those were some of my favorite meals, too, that we would have on Friday night. Yeah.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
Childhood memory, I would say those fish fries, Friday nights. They were pretty eventful things that would happen when you would pour the grease and whatever it was you were frying into the fryer, and the flames would reach the top of the kitchen ceiling, and we would sit back in fright and fear, wondering if the house was going to burn down. Pretty traumatic each and every Friday night, but it always worked out. Never had to call the fire department. One other probably memory that I would probably talk about would be, yeah, sorry, got these written down. Just that you never sat still, on the move constantly. Urgency of what you used to make sure that each one of us received religious instruction when we were young. In those days was a costly venture, and I'm sure it stretched the family budget. But you made sure and made a point of it that each of us were given the opportunity to use it or lose it, but the opportunity was given. And probably, lastly on that, I don't want to get carried away talking about, but probably for each one of us, and especially to me, is just the perseverance you've shown and demonstrated over your life in dealing with hard times, struggles, how to push through when life smacks you in the face, just to keep moving. And I think that's a life lesson that not only we've learned, that we'll pass on to our children and their children. And Mr. Producer, Mrs. Producer, the next question.
What is her go-to saying?
Oh, your go-to saying for me, and I'm sure a lot of the other kids and grandkids would be, give me a break. But I would also add on to that, give me a break, you pot liquor. Or, in the plural sense, if there's more than 2 or 3 or 4 gathered at the table, you pot liquors. Next question.
What is your favorite food your mom made while growing up?
I don't think I could just say one thing, but probably in order of first to last, I'd say definitely spaghetti and meatballs would be number one. You cook some fabulous different types of roasts, weekends, on Sundays, noodles and carrots, all that, and especially the fish fries, the no-meat Fridays. Those were some of my favorite meals, too, that we would have on Friday night. Yeah.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
Childhood memory, I would say those fish fries, Friday nights, they were pretty eventful things that would happen when you would pour the grease and whatever it was you were frying into the fryer, and the flames would reach the top of the kitchen ceiling, and we would sit back in fright and fear, wondering if the house was going to burn down. Pretty traumatic each and every Friday night, but it always worked out. Never had to call the fire department. One other probably memory that I would probably talk about would be, yeah, sorry, got these written down. Just that you never sat still, on the move constantly. Didn't sit in the easy chair smoking a cigarette, watching a TV show at night. It didn't matter. Daytime, sun up, sundown. You were on the move. You were constantly taking care of those things necessary to take care of a household of 5, and just amazing. You didn't take a whole lot of time for yourself. At least it didn't appear to us that you did. And I remember that.
All right. 3 words you would use to describe your mom.
3 words. I'll give you 4. I see you, especially in your later years, and probably just to describe it would be you have a very tough exterior sometimes, but we all know that you have a very soft heart. And I see that in myself. I don't consider it a bad thing. But I think those...
Grandma Margie, we're interviewing her before her 90th birthday. Couple fun facts about Grandma. I don't know how many of you know that her real name is Mafalda Marguerite, Conjanti, but she went by Marjorie Ann in high school. We just found that interesting fact out recently.
I didn't like Mafalda.
So start us off there. How come you changed your name?
I really didn't like Mafalda. I never heard it from anybody else, and I thought, where did they get this name from? So I said to my mom, who named me? And she said, my dad, coming from Italy, the Queen of Italy had a daughter named Mafalda. So I thought, oh, I'm pretty privileged then, aren't I?
Yeah.
That's how that came about.
And then you didn't want Marguerite, right?
That was well, there was a story about my baptism. We lived in Rogers City, and they had a big Catholic church, pretty much run by the Polish people, and we were only a few Italians that belonged to that church. Anyhow, my mom presented me for baptism, and the priest would not baptize me because my dad hadn't paid the pew rent, which I don't know what amount it was. He either didn't have it or thought it was stupid and wasn't paying it. He didn't go to church on a regular basis. And so they wouldn't baptize me. Well, they waited a while, and then they took me to Posen, which is a small town outside between Rogers and Alpena.
And they had a Catholic church, and they agreed to baptize me. So I was 2 years old when I was baptized.
What?
And I do have a picture of it, but I don't know where it's at. And anyhow, that was very important way back then, to become a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. So that was the beginning of my babyhood. I was a chubby little bugger. You would had a big fat face. I saw a picture of it, and I remember one of the Italian girls that lived near us said her mother, after her mother passed away, had said, I was such a beautiful baby of the children we had. I thought, oh my gosh. So that was nice to hear, even though it came from another Italian, but anyhow. So,
what were your grandparents, or what were your parents' names?
My mom was named Grace, and I think the Italian way to pronounce it is, no, it was Grace. Grazia. Was it in Italian, I think, and her mother called her that. She spoke little good English, my grandmother. And my dad was named Vincenzo. And everybody that knew him called him Vincent or Jimmy. Vincent James was his name, so he got tagged the name of Jimmy for James. I don't know how that happened, but that's what people knew him as. And I had 5 sisters besides myself in the family. Emma was the oldest, and it was about 2 years between each one of us. Ida was next. Ida passed away when she was 9 years old, and I was the third born after Ida. And then there was Verge, and after Verge was Rita. We called Skippy from the time she was little, and the last one was Barbara. We go on?
Yep, you're good.
Where did I let it? Well, I forgot where I dropped off.
You were naming all your siblings, and
oh, Barbara was the youngest. Now that was 6 daughters, and through my growing up years, I always heard I have no boys to help me. No boys to give me a hand. Well, because of that, us girls tried to do what we could to help him, like lay blocks for the house or anything like that, so he'd shut up. But anyhow...
Did your dad have favorites, or your mom have favorites, or how'd you guys all get along growing up?
I don't think my mother played favorites.
Was she quiet? What kind of person was she?
She was intelligent for having come over this country with her parents, firstborn in that family, and she was 2 years old when they came over here, and she went to school. She went through the 8th grade, and her mother had to have her come home at that time to help her with the other siblings that were younger than her. They had moved to the Sioux by that time, Sioux St. Marie, because there was work there for the father of the family, and he moved his family to the Sioux. And my grandmother took in washings from the people that worked on the Sioux locks and didn't go home, only on weekends, I guess. And so she had to have her daughter help her quit school, come home and help her with the kids, little ones behind her. So she was could have been quite an intelligent person for all the schooling she didn't have. But anyhow, she never complained. She might have complained under her breath. I never heard her, but...
She was quiet, right?
Well, you'd think with 6 girls in the house, no car, she never drove. She tried once to drive a car. My dad was there to show her. And the incident was, he took her out on a country road, which was pretty much gravel and about 6 foot wide. It was all one way. And she said there were cows crossing that road. They're out in the country, evidently. And she kind of got scared and threw up her arms. And he's not any better driver than she was after a bit. But that was her incident, and he bawled her out, of course, about why did you get so scared? You have to use your head. She wouldn't drive after that, because of his comments. So she never drove, and she liked to listen, she liked to read, and she did read a lot, and she cooked, washed clothes all day long. Even when we were in high school, we come home from high school at 3:30, she was still in the basement washing clothes. And that went on for many years, of course. And she had the whitest wash in town.
Speaking of, that's a dryer.
Particular about how clean her clothes were. Anyhow, I don't know how she handled the diapers bit. I don't remember that, because we're all 2 years apart, so you must have had diapers most of her early years. Anyhow, so a lot of people can identify with that one. But anyhow.
What was your dad like?
My dad?
Yeah.
He was a hard worker. He worked at the limestone plant in Rogers City called Calcite after a while. And he was in the yard crew. And he was a hard worker. He'd work till 4 o'clock and come home and eat supper, and then he'd work on the house or plant his garden. He was always doing something till about 9 o'clock at night before he'd go to bed.
What was in his garden?
Ooh.
What was in his garden? He had a garden?
He had 2 gardens. Well, yeah, when I even realized what was going on, he had they were probably, I'd say, 30 by 60 each square. He had one on one side of the house. And where we lived, the railroad track went behind us into the plant. And he had one across there, about as big as the one by the house. So when it was time where the plants were growing 3/4 of the way to being done, we either had to pick the damn bugs off the tomato plants or put poles up where they started to grow, so he'd tie them up when they got so high so they didn't hang all over the ground. So we had to do that when he was gone to work. You better have it done when he got home. He would check it out anyhow. And that's about the only jobs he made us do. Help him carry something or we lived up there. We lived 2 miles out of town, and that was quite adjacent to the limestone quarry. There were about 8 families that lived in that area. They were all Italian. And they fought a lot. The kids fought, the older ones fought because the kids fought. And you know how that might go. So my dad said through our growing up when we were older to get out and play, he made a statement, you are not going up there to play with the other children. We were kind of a block or 2 away from the rest of them because there were always fights. And then the adults got into it. In fact, there was one older couple that lived there amongst those that had children, and if we played softball, invariably a ball would get hit on their lawn, which they held so dear. They took good care of their lawn, and they holler and scream at us for doing it. They wanted us to stop. Well, we couldn't stop, where the ball was going. So my dad had a problem with that, and he said, you're not going up there to play anymore. That's done. I'm not going to listen to this bull crap. So that cut into our plan out with the other Italian kids, but not because we were bitter. We just got a lot of static of what we did. And other than that, we were pretty much outdoorsy growing up. Summer and winter. Go out and pick cherries, go through the woods, and oh yeah. We did a lot of that. We didn't have toys to play with outside. We had a sled, We go down the hill in front of our house, but roller skates we got as we got older, and a bicycle. We had one bicycle, two-wheeler, and we shared that. It was a second-hand one to begin with, I think. And we ate well. We never lacked for food.
What was your meal, you would say?
What was what?
The standard meal that you guys had 3 times a week was pasta and...
Pasta fagioli.
Yeah.
That is pasta of any size or shape she might use, and beans, white northern beans, and I hated those. And she might have that a couple times a week because it was a cheap meal, and I wouldn't eat it. And that's why today, as in all these growing up years, I don't like beans. I like
garbanzo
chickpeas, but I don't like the white northern beans. She used to eat a lot. Anyhow, she made homemade bread and canned and all that stuff that you have to do to keep your grocery account down. Anyhow.
Where'd you learn how to cook?
What?
Where'd you learn how to cook?
I didn't pay any attention until I was out of high school. I didn't cook while I was going to school. No. She was home all the time. She couldn't go anywhere else. She was hog-tied, boy, me. Anyhow,
I remember you telling a story about, didn't your dad build a house, the house you lived in, moved in?
Well, I was in high school at that point in time. The building was put up by people that owned Michigan Limestone, and whoever owned it, the company owned it. And it was built by them to house sailors that were coming in the dock in Roger City. In case they weren't working, they'd stay overnight and want a place to stay other than on the boat. Well, it didn't pan out, I guess. They got one floor done where the rooms were finished out. They had 14 rooms in the lower level. And the second level had 14 rooms planned, and they were all 2x4, but never finished. They abandoned the idea about that time. So it stood there that way. Until some few years later, I don't know, probably 5-6 years later, they wanted to get rid of it, sell it. So my dad and this other fellow that worked at the plant, Mr. Beebe, went together to buy the place, to ask if they could buy the place, and they sold it to him. They had to tear it down. And I think my dad said they paid $700 for it. It was all new lumber in it. So he built a house downtown with it, my dad did, across the road in a place that had no homes on it yet, a street. And so he got a new house out of it, and so did the other guy. They lived across the street from one another. And it was nice, and my dad, of course, had a lot of work to do. They had to tear down the building they bought, and then transfer it to town, to their building lot, to build their other place. So it took them a couple years to do that. My dad did the basement wall, and the things we got caught up in was when he was putting the blocks in for the wall, he would have a plank about 12 feet wide, put it up on the first level, and the blocks were delivered by the company and set right there so you could slide them down. Well, we had to slide them down that plank to my dad while he was down there putting them, cementing them in. And he'd always say, no boys to help me. My God, we got that dirty work to do. You know, that wasn't what we wanted to do, stand down there and slide blocks to them, but we had to do it. And he got it done. And he had the first level, I don't know if he roughed it in or not before he got people that knew what they're doing. You know, the electrical, the furnace, the plumbing, all that had to be hired, but he built a 2-story house, and it was quite nice, and it stands today.
Wow, it does?
Oh yeah, looks very good. Looks better than my house outside. The people, whoever bought it down through the years, maintained it well. And it's up in the area where there's all newer homes built.
I bet you even remember the address. Do you remember the address?
Do I what?
Remember the street it was on?
It was 5th Street.
I knew you would know it.
Yeah. And eventually it started to get built up, but today it's a lot of homes up in there. But it's still a nice home. Whoever bought it kept it up on the outside too. So it looks good yet today. But that was quite a thing for my dad to have accomplished. He went only to the 4th grade in school in Italy. He came from Gazzo, which is a town that's about 30 miles northeast of Rome. And he had a father who was handicapped. He had arthritis, or one leg, he could hardly walk, I guess, so I say it. And he had a small square where he planted, I don't know, potatoes. I don't think they eat potatoes, but whatever they had planted. And as is normal with families and young children you assign jobs to, he was told to go out and horse and dray and plow the thing up. He was a 4th grader, close to that. And he didn't do it. And so I don't know if he was told more than once and it wasn't done. So his father went out and did it. And he got, being he was a cripple, semi-cripple, because of arthritis, his one leg got pulled under the dray. And I don't know how badly it was injured, but he got blamed for all that. You know how that is. If you'd been out there doing what you're supposed to do, that wouldn't have happened. So I think he lived with that all his life, because they blamed him for his situation after that.
Did he have siblings, your dad?
He had a sister, and I think he had a brother. He had a sister who, and she got older, I don't know how far they went in school. My dad only went to the 4th grade. Anyhow, the sister got married, moved to South America, because whoever she married had a big sheep ranch. And her name was Mimi. That's all I know about her. We had a picture of her. And I think he had a brother that still lived in, I don't know what part of Italy then, because when my sister, Barbara, in her teaching years, in the summer, she took a vacation and went to Europe. And she stopped in Italy to visit my dad's relatives. Any of them were left there, I don't know who. She got to see a brother and nephews, I think, that were there. One of his nephews played in the Italian Symphony. Yeah. And she met him and talked to him, and she gave him her phone number and her address, because he said they had planned a program in the U.S., and they were to hit California, one of the places. So she gave him her phone number, and she wanted him to contact her when he got there. Well, she never did hear from him. So I don't know if that program failed, he didn't go, or what it was, but that was the only contact the family had with my dad's people, you know.
What was his dad's parents' name? Do you remember? Your grandparents?
Dad's last name?
Your grandparents' name.
My grandparents?
On his side.
Congianti.
Right, you guys, he changed it.
C-O-N-G-I-O-N-T-I. Well, that was too damn Italian for us kids.
So who changed
it? We wanted to pretend we were born here. And we were. We all were born here. But
who changed
we changed it when we went to high school.
Who did?
I did. I don't know if Emma did or any of the rest of them did or not. We didn't spell it the way my dad did. We spelled it like it sounded because it was easier for people to repeat. C-O-N-J-O-N-T-E. That's simple. I changed my name about was ninth grade, I think. And I took chorus.
None of her name's real, just so everyone
And the
knows.
instructor could never pronounce my last name. He was one of these that would point at you. He'd say, Kanyani? He wanted you to get up and either sing a note or something. I said, my name isn't Kanyani. He was the only one that kept calling me that. I changed it right then. I said, my name is Kanjanti. Well, he didn't care. Anyhow, that was why I went to Kanjanti, not Kanyani, the way my dad spelled it. So nobody ever made issue of it, so that's okay. I graduated as Kanjanti.
Yeah, what was your first name?
Well, my first bit, no wait, I guess they called me that. It was on my baptism record, Marjorie. I don't know if the priest did that or how it happened. Marguerite Mafelda Cangianti. I never liked any of that either. So I don't want the other girls made any changes in their last name. I don't. I think they spelled it just like I did. Conjonte. Yeah, you get a lot less flack that way. And you get less questions. Yeah.
What were your grandparents' names?
There again, their Italian name was Rosati. Rosati. I don't know how they got the name Rose out of that. When their family was growing up, they all went by Rose. Whether they did it legally or not, I don't know.
Oh, your mom's last name was Rosati?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like Uncle Dan, one of my mother's brothers, he went to the University of Michigan, and he was cited for basketball. They put him in college and paid his way for basketball. He was he was only about 5'6". And I don't know, but I guess he must have been pretty good to only be that tall and be chosen to go to Michigan for basketball. And his picture's in the hallway up there. He graduated from there. He was the only one.
Isn't there something in Central Michigan?
I beg your pardon?
Isn't there something at CMU?
Oh, yeah. It's at CMU.
CMU, Central Michigan?
Yeah. He was coaching in high schools before that. He coached in East Grand Rapids High School.
Okay.
And he had President Ford for a student, a football player.
Wow.
He was one of their football players. And when President Ford got office, elected, and he had a presidential breakfast, Uncle Dan was invited to it. And he was his teacher at East Grand High School in Grand Rapids. Yeah, so he did well for an immigrant, son of an immigrant, I think. Everybody knew him. And so even though he wasn't tall, and they knew him for his basketball ability.
Did she have more siblings?
Who's that?
Your mom have other siblings?
Yep, she had 3 other brothers besides Dan, and 2 sisters.
That's a lot.
And now, coming from an immigrant family, they all held good jobs. Uncle Dan became assistant manager of the U.S. Steel plant in Buffalo, New York. He worked in Calcite for a while, and then they advanced him. And Uncle Emmett was an engineer on one of the boats. So was Uncle Joe. They were both engineers. I don't know what schooling they had for that, if any. But yeah, they weren't dummies by no means. And she had she had 2 sisters. They didn't go to college. But the one worked in retail clothing after she was married and had kids so many years down the road. The other one the one sister had 2 boys, and so did the other sister, had 2 boys. My mother had no boys. Isn't that odd? Yeah. But,
you were a good student in school, right? I remember you saying that.
The what?
You were a good student in school?
Oh my! I was always an honor student all through high school, pretty much. I didn't do well in algebra, and I had a sit-to with the algebra teacher. It was small, nothing big. She was an old maid that taught the class, and she had, her protocol was to show you an example of a problem that was going to be in your work for the next day assignment. She'd write it on the board, and then she'd give you time to start your work in class till the class was done. And I was fiddling around and raised my hand. I didn't understand it, I guess. I wanted her help. She came around and she said, well, if you're so smart, you ought to be able to figure that out yourself. And I said, who told you that? Yeah, well, you know what teachers do. They meet in the lounge and they talk about students. Anyhow, that must have been where she got it from. I sure never said that. Or let it be known that it was a fact or anything. You can tell by the work they do. And I never liked her after that. I'm good thing that's the only class I had her for. Or I'd been deep water. That was my only run-in with in high school. You know, it was said and done. And I was a cheerleader in high school.
You were the first cheerleader, right?
Who?
Weren't you the first cheerleader?
I was the first to be elected by the whole student body. They had what do you call it? Where all the classes meet in the gym for something going on, and they announced, and those that wanted to try out had to try out in front of the assembly of the people, of the students. And so you had to go out there by yourself and do something. And they voted, the student body, and so I got elected in 9th grade as a cheerleader. Never before were the 9th graders open to it. And so I was one for 4 years. And about second year into it, or third, my sister became one. There was only us two and a boy, young boy. But I pursued it for 4 years. I looked forward to it, really. It's the only outlet I had other than school. So anyhow, and I recall out of those 4 years, and I was out of high school, and this one older student at the time, he was out of school, and he's a businessman in Rogers City, and he said, I remember you went and cheerleaded at an Alpena game all by yourself. I said, yep, I did. You know, and you go back, you listen to that now, that was really crazy. To run out there, and nobody told me at what intervals you could go out and do it. Just, you scream your ears, or mouth out, and you had a lot of energy then. So anyhow, that's about all I did. I paid attention to my classes, and I had an English teacher in 11th grade, I think it was, and she didn't like to move very fast. She was older, you know, for the rest of the bunch that were there. Anyhow, if she wanted anything written on the board, she'd always pick on me to go up on the board and do her writing for her, because I had pretty good penmanship, evidently. And so she sat around, did nothing our whole junior year, anything like that. She'd say, Marge, will you get up and do this on the board? Well, sure. You know, I'll pull some points. What? Yeah.
So did you guys, you were just telling me about driver's training.
Oh, we had no driver's training. That was not heard of in school then.
Your family had one car, right?
We had one car.
Okay.
And I'll tell you how I learned to drive. You take the car and drive by yourself. It was a stick shift.
Oh, geez.
On the floor. And I asked my mother if I could take it to school that morning because I had to come home and change, put on appropriate dress because we had debates. And I had a debate to give in front of the students in the auditorium. That was 10th grade. 11th grade you had to write, 10th grade was debates, and it was material of somebody else's that you picked to write and talk about. The 11th grade, you made your own lecture up. And I was in orations, they called them. And so I had an oration to give. And I wanted to go home and change my clothes to present in front of the audience that afternoon. And it was slippery. And I had not a lot of training beforehand. And I went to turn in our driveway, which was built over a culvert, you know, a ditch, and they put the pipe in to build your road up to drive on. And that came off, I had to turn onto that, and our house was kind of uphill, the rest of the road, for a short way. And I hit the ditch. The car slid off the road, and I went down in the ditch about head first. And fortunately, there was very little water in it. It was a cold time of the year. So I just left it there till my dad got home. I don't know how the heck I got back to school. Yeah.
Did you get in trouble?
Not too bad. Well, I had no training. I just knew how to get home. My mother said, I took the car. He wouldn't have let me, probably. But, so that remained in my memory for a long time. And I really didn't drive till I was out of high school then. And, what else? That's about all we did. We didn't have athletics in high school for girls.
So what was it like growing up with 5 other sisters? Right?
A little bickering. I used to like to, you know, when you feel you don't get enough clothes to wear, you don't. You get a couple, 3 outfits for the school year. And Emma worked. She's the oldest. And she went to work in her junior year at the telephone office in town. And so she would use her salary to buy some nice lingerie or clothes, dress or whatever she wanted. And she never wore them to school. She'd fold them all nicely and put them in a drawer. And of course we knew she had them. So I was a culprit. And I'd pick out one of her clothes and put it on, put my winter coat over it, going from the house to the bus, so she wouldn't see it till she got in school. And she did. She saw me go down the corridor and had something of hers on. She gave me the damnedest look. Wait till you get home. And my mother I wasn't afraid of my mother, but no, she brought it up. Mom, why did you let her do that? Well, I didn't know she had it on. So we had to be real careful about that one. But she never wore her nice clothes. I thought, what's the sense of them being in that drawer?
I agree.
Yeah, that was one of the things I used to pull on her. But other than that, I didn't go out. I didn't date. We couldn't date.
You loved to dance. So when you graduated high school, how'd you end up in Gladwin?
Well, I graduated in '45. I was an honors student, and I applied for a civil service job, wrote the test, and I passed it. You have to have above a 90 to be considered for a job with a civil service test. I think I had 93. And so I was open to any jobs that had to be filled to apply for them. I passed the civil service test. And there was the summer after following my graduation of '45, I worked in the office in Alpena for the summer. Because I didn't know if I had a job by civil service yet or not at that time. And my uncle was a personnel man in the plant. And he got me in, of course, just for the summer months, because I didn't know where I was going to be after that. And so I worked at Besser plant in Alpena, doing secretarial work, typing and that, etc., in the sales office. And that went all right. And then I got notification there was an opening, that was in almost September, I think. There was a job opening either in West Branch or Gladwin, secretarial job in one of the FHA offices. And I didn't know which one was any better than the other to go to. And the guys I worked with, a few of them would tease me about Gladwin. You don't want to go there, they have nothing but Mennonites there. And so does West Branch, but it ain't quite as bad. I didn't know, I hadn't been to either town, so I just told the higher-ups I would like to be placed in Gladwin, and that's how I got there. I ran an office and had a county supervisor that went out to check all the farms. They lent money to the farmers for crops or buildings that needed replacing and different things on farms. That's all covered. And I was there a year and a half. That's all I did that stint for. I met LJ that fall.
Where'd you meet him?
Went with him the next year.
Where'd you meet him in Gladwin?
Who?
Where'd you meet him in Gladwin?
Guess where?
Dancing.
A bar.
A bar?
The Wooden Shoe, which is a popular place out there at the time. And he was a good dancer amongst the many that were there. Anyhow,
didn't you used to win dance competitions, you, Grandma?
What?
Didn't you win dance competitions? Was that you?
I don't think so. I don't recall that.
Oh, I thought it was you.
His aunt, he was related to these two old maids, lived a block down the street from us after we were married. And she made the first winter coat for Cindy. She was a seamstress, one of them. And going over there and picking up stuff and talking to her, she said, "What are you doing? I understand you and LJ are the best dancers in the county." I said, "What?" And I'd never heard that before. So that's where that comes from. I don't know who started that, but yeah, we enjoyed dancing. And guess what? Oh, if we get married, we'll never stop dancing. We'll go out every Saturday night. Oh yeah, it never happened. It never happened that way. But anyhow, and then Cindy came along 2 years after that.
No. I thought you were married in February, and
Yeah,
she was born 9 months.
December.
9 months later.
That was close. What'd you expect?
Meaning, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly 9 months later, right, Grams?
No, I got married in February.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had her in December. Yeah, I'm sure everybody thought I was pregnant. I wasn't. Shouldn't be saying that. You're going to be glad on that. But
to clarify timeline, she wasn't.
no, I wasn't. People wondered what was questionable. Are you kidding? No. Anyhow, from there, it's history.
So you lived, when my mom was born, didn't you live with his family in a house?
No, it wasn't his family.
No.
His mother and, his father died when he was 36 years old. And he never lived with his mother and dad. He was raised from the time he was 3 or 4 years old. His father raised him. And
Is that Thelma?
Their house. What?
Is that Thelma? Grandma Thelma or something?
Thelma and, well, his dad, but he passed away very young. He had pneumonia, I think. And he was a piano player. He played all over the county. At dances, like in country halls and stuff, by ear. He took piano lessons until he was, so his grandmother said, his mother, until he was 4 years old or 5. And the woman who gave the lessons, when he had taken them 2 years from him, she said, "Mrs. Merrick, he can play better than I can. I don't see any sense in him wasting his money on piano lessons. So he was on his own. As he got older, I don't know, high school or what he was, he played at the theater where they only had, they didn't have sound with the pictures. And so he would sit and accompany the movie as it went along just by what he saw on the screen.
That's cool.
He probably practiced before, but I don't know that. But anyhow, so he was known all over the county for his piano playing. And that's why when Cindy was born, she's going to have to take piano lessons. And they went to the Catholic school, of course, and the sister that was teaching her, she was second year into it, I think. She said, well, you had a hard time getting her to practice by then. She didn't, she'd had it. She was done with piano.
My mom.
Yeah, like most kids, you know. And the sister said, Mrs. Merrick, she's got a natural talent for it. Don't let her give it up. So I don't know how long she took piano lessons. Probably 3-4 years total. And she can play quite well yet. And the rest of the kids, Jim likes to strum a guitar. There were 5 of them, and Connie and Candy went to the Catholic school too. They were twins, and Cindy gets the charge on them. They said they played in the church or the school band. Cindy said, yeah, you just held the instrument. You didn't know what you were doing. And I don't think they really learned a lot, but so that was that with the twins. But Jim he was hanging around with some boys that were, guitar was a big thing. Just sit there and drum and sing. So we had to listen to him around the halls playing the guitar and singing. And Brian was the other way. He went into sports from the time he was Little League, yeah. And he was, he played he played football, although he wasn't cut out for football. He was not very heavy set. And he didn't last long at that. Anyhow, he was good at basketball, fairly good, but he played in his junior year, and some might identify with this, there were 2 or 3 seniors that were brought down to the junior grade, JV. How'd that go? Brian was JV, and he had to sit the bench because they brought 2 of the seniors down so they could play more on the JV team. They weren't playing as seniors. And Brian never got a lot of playing time. And so after all that, and he was out of school and moved to Texas, became a teacher, he was coaching. And Jill said, I watched him play, with the teachers. They'd had after school games, basketball. He said, Brian was really good. I said, well, that's what I said. I went to a teacher when they had, what do they call it? You go in and talk to the teacher about their conduct and their grades once a year. And the one asked me why Brian quit basketball. I said, I told him he could. He asked me, and I said, yep, if you go out to all the practices and they don't play you, I don't think that's fair. And so he quit. And his teacher asked me, why did Brian quit basketball? And I told him. I said, because they brought seniors down so they could play, and he sat the bench. I don't think that's fair. Yet they have to make all the practices, or they don't get to play. So Brian didn't finish basketball in high school, and somebody said, "You shouldn't have done that to him." Well, Dad, that's right. I didn't lie about it.
It's a mama bear there.
He had as much potential as the rest of those they brought down, but. That's what goes on in the schools, too.
So what's it like, Grandma? What was it like raising 5 kids? You had to have your hands full.
I bowled.
You did?
Well, they were grown. I never left them as babies. I'm trying to think, where'd I go when they were babies? No place. I went up to Rogers City, but LJ would drive. I never took them any place alone when they were little. They were good kids. They weren't crybabies or whining all the time. They didn't do that. None of my kids did. Thank God. Or I don't know what I would have done.
Did you cook every night for them?
Did I?
Mm-hmm.
When it was 5 kids in the family?
Yeah.
Yeah, who else is gonna? Somebody's got to eat. And you don't go to a restaurant when you got 5 kids. No.
Did you guys have any traditions as a family through the year?
They used to clap their hands when we went to Midland. Now they were probably junior high kids, or some year or 2 before that maybe. Of going to Midland. There's McDonald's. They get all excited about going to McDonald's. They don't do that's common today for kids today. Yeah, that's what it was. So they didn't go fast food places very often. No.
Did you have any family traditions around the holidays or around school?
Traditions?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You spend a lot of money on toys. What?
As a parent, what do you want to make sure your kids grew up being or knowing?
They never like what you give them anyhow. Brian used to get up no matter what. He'd be up at 3 and 4 in the morning just to get down and open presents. And he'd open Cindy's or open somebody else's too, and they'd get a little excited about that, but no. They got a few things. They didn't get a lot.
As their mom, what was important to you to make sure they grew up to be what kind of people?
Honest.
Honest.
Employable. And hard workers if they had a job, and they all were. They did a good job while they had a job, as far as I know. Yeah, but you...
Oh, so Grandma, give us some ideas or perspective of what it was like in your household with you raising your children growing up.
No money to do what you want to do. You always would like to do the utmost for your family, but it only depends on how much income's coming in as to how much you can get done out of that. We try to give them what every other child has in growing up years, and especially how to save money. They were, well, you know, I went to work outside of the home when Cindy was a ninth grader, and Brian was a 1st grader. I thought I have to supplement the income if I want to buy anything for the house. Guess what? I worked how many years? I never bought anything for the house. So that's a lame excuse. But anyhow, Cindy was kind of, when Brian got home, because he only went to school a full day in the 1st grade. But she had to kind of corral to make sure they weren't out in the 40 acres on another farm or something. That they were in their yard and doing what they were not supposed to be doing. And that was a lot to put on her. She was a 9th grader and she was very dependable that way for a 9th grader. Anyhow, but I think she wasn't robbed of anything. She didn't play football and that kind of stuff like the twins like to go out and do, or Brian and Jim yet. But I hear about stories they did, and I didn't know they did them. Like Jim, they set the grass afire out in the back, it's like a backyard, and different crazy shit like that. And they got fervent true love angry a few times because they went in her yard. I don't know what they did, but she came to the house once about it, I remember. She lived 2 houses down. Anyhow.
Were you a strict parent, Grandma?
What's that?
Were you a strict parent?
LG was, I wasn't. I told them what they could and couldn't do, but they didn't listen to me. If he stated something, it was for good. You know, but this is what happened once. They went down the park and they tell me, and if you don't go with them, you don't know what they do when they're a block away from the house. And they were probably what, 5th, 6th graders, 4th graders? And their cousin Jan lived in Gladwin then, about 5 blocks from us, and it was down going to the park, city park. And they go down there, they told me about taking their bicycles down the park, riding down the hill. The park was down in the middle, and it was hilly on the outside of it. And they rode their bikes down there, all the way down. I said, you what? Rode your bikes? I mean, you kill yourself doing that. They did ludicrous shit all the time. Like that. Oh my God. Somebody was with you then.
How do you think your kids would describe you as a mother?
I don't know.
No?
They never heard me carry on, did you? No, I didn't. Not when no, I was after that.
Just looking at Aunt Connie.
She never carried on. Well, I did put him in the Catholic school, which I feel glad about now, because LJ was not a Catholic, and he turned Catholic to marry me. I said, I'm not marrying you unless you turn Catholic. Well, he did, but he didn't follow the faith, so it wasn't a sincere action. Anyhow, but I made sure they went to the Catholic school to get some background, and went to the church there. And I guess they followed that pretty much to this day. Not you. You went to the community. That was the end of that.
Well, Grandma, I remember on video.
Yeah.
Ready, Grams?
Well,
what are you most proud of your children? What they did?
I appreciate the fact they all got through college and have a good job, enough to keep themselves above water all the time. And they had good marriages, I think. I don't know. Yeah, and grandchildren. Out of all that, you have grandchildren, and LJ, you say, yeah, great to have grandchildren. You enjoy them all day or how long you're with them, and then you can send them home at night with their parents. And that's pretty much true. You can enjoy the fruits of that by your grandchildren, because you watch them do different things as they grow up, and it affords you pleasure. Yeah.
What was your favorite memory growing up with your siblings and your parents? Your fondest memory?
With my family?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. There wasn't any. My dad did not extend himself as, what you could say. He never embraced us, no matter what we did. Mm-hmm. Well, my mother would try to compensate, I guess, because she would always look at her report cards and sign them. And I was in an operetta twice, 4th and 5th grade. I had the main role, going to grade school. She went to the place. He never went to anything we were in. He'd just tell us to be home by midnight. That was it, if we were out at the ball game or whatever. But no, he did not, I don't think he felt he enjoyed anything we did. Or if he knew what we did or how well we did it. I don't know if just making a living took everything he could do or what. But that was the way it was, and my mother did. She took interest in what we were doing in school.
What would be your favorite memory or proudest moment of you raising your family?
Well, Cindy played the piano for her graduating class. Do you know, did she tell you that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, she learned to play the piano enough so that she accompanied the graduation class. And they're marching in, I think it was. And Connie and Candy were cheerleaders, weren't you? Candy dropped out when she got a boyfriend, but yeah, that was the end of her cheerleading. And they did good work in school. They always had homework. Connie and Candy always had homework, and they'd get their books out about 9 o'clock at night. And we went to bed about 11:30, and they were laughing, tee-hawing, and doing other things that sitting there, yeah, I gotta get our homework done. Or they had to wash your hair or do something like that. LG says, you had all night, what are you doing? But, and I don't know, Brian and Jim never had homework. How come? I don't know if they didn't do it or what, but they did medium work in high school and that, so it was okay. Were you a cheerleader? You were, but you didn't stay with it.
Yes, I did.
It was a Candy dropped
All
out.
4 years, yes.
Right, yeah. Candy dropped out.
Family vacations. You said you would take them to Midland?
That wasn't a vacation. That's 30 miles away. We didn't go on. We'd go to Rogers City once a year, maybe. That was a long trip with kids. They either had to get out and go to the bathroom. Cindy got car sick as she was about in the grades then, and start getting car sick. So we had to stop the car and let her out. Invariably, it happened, and just put her in the front seat. I guess it was. She rode in the front seat. Anyhow, that was a major thing. Can you imagine? Anyhow,
what was your meal that the kids would request? Did they ever request meals, or you didn't allow them to? Like, what was the favorite dish you made that they always liked?
the girls ate anything. I never heard what they wanted or didn't ever all the time. Did
to
you?
this very day.
Brian wanted pot roast. He liked pot roast, and there was something else. He wasn't gung-ho on spaghetti, was he? Brian was?
So you made homemade meatballs and sauce way back then?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Most of the time. I don't know about Jim, what his real liking was.
We love liver and onions.
Yeah.
Liver and onions? Not Jim. I don't think so.
That's Aunt Connie talking.
I don't think any of them like liver. And
do you have a favorite meal, Grandma?
no, I eat most anything and enjoy it. I'm not really gung-ho for spaghetti like most people on the outside of being Italian like it. No.
What's that like cornmeal looking stuff you guys used to eat?
Polenta.
That's what it was.
Polenta.
Polenta.
You said
I like that. But you use tomato sauce on that too, or you can put other stuff, but that's what we use. And I never made it then. LG never heard of it, probably. I never made it then. He didn't like it, he wouldn't eat it. Yeah. Anyhow, he was a steak person. He liked steak too, but we used to have a butcher shop that he got his own meat and butchered it and stuff, and it was usually good. Well, he had a variety of pork. We didn't eat the same thing all the time.
Chicken.
Not a lot of hot dogs and stuff. No. Hamburgers. Do we eat hamburgers very often? Not either.
So I know you didn't have a lot of free time with 5 kids, but hobbies, what'd you like to do? If you were to get any free time, what would you like to do? You did bowling. You like to dance.
I bowled on night a week was all I bowled, but that's after they were older. And could get to bed by themselves. and I golfed. Well, I didn't do that till after he passed away.
Golfed after?
Yeah, I golfed after that, but not before. You don't have time.
Just
you come
cleaning.
home and you gotta either wash clothes or think about what you're gonna fix tomorrow. I was working when Cindy was in the 9th grade. So you don't get a lot done at home. And those people that work out, they aren't cleaning anything or they tell you differently. Yeah.
Did you get to see your sisters a lot once you had children and you guys all started your own families?
No. No, you might get up to Rogers City once a year. Emma lived up there all her married life. And Verge moved to Gladwin. And I used to go to Midland when they lived in Midland. After LJ passed on, I'd go to Midland once a month, maybe, just to see them, but no. There was no games and let's go places, no.
At the Wooden Shoe, the dances, what were some of the dance moves during your time?
Some of the dances?
Yeah, like what were the dance moves then?
Polka.
Polka?
They used to always play a polka sometime during the night.
You could
They had
polka?
live bands then. They didn't have jukeboxes. And waltzes. And the other two-step one, what do they call it?
Foxtrot?
Foxtrot. It was just the usual. But you know who couldn't dance and you didn't want to dance with them.
Who?
Males. If you ever danced with them, they couldn't dance, no. I mean, they just shuffled their feet, so.
You were the best dancer, Mother, at the Wooden Shoe.
What?
You and LJ were the best dancers.
Who said? I don't know if we were the best.
You
We
said.
were out there a lot. On a Saturday night, probably. Before we got married.
Did you guys go to the movies? Like, what'd you guys do? Like, what were date nights like then?
It was going to a place like the Wooden Shoe.
So you go to the dance bars?
We danced, enjoyed that more than we never went to many movies. I go
No.
to sleep in them.
I still do.
Halfway through, I'd be going fight and sleep. What was the point of going to a movie?
You didn't drink then, right? You were smoking cigarettes, but you weren't a drinker, right?
No, never was. I would have a 7-Up and 7 Crown whiskey, maybe a mixed drink.
It's called a 7 and 7, Grandma.
7 and 7. That's about it. Might drink
Wow.
one of those. That was it. I only got plastered once, and that's because people were feeding me drinks. And I got, where the heck, there was a place we used to go all the time in Gladwin, up on the hill, Red Spice. I don't know what it is now. It was about 12 miles out of town. And yeah, people would do that. They would put stuff in your drink and knew if you weren't drinking, that kind of thing. I never did, no. No. I didn't like it. Why would I drink it?
No, it's good. It's good.
Beer?
All your grandkids followed suit. Good job, Grandma. Way to lead by example.
He liked beer, not me. No.
So what would you say some of your famous sayings are now, growing up, and as a child? What are your famous sayings or expressions?
They can tell you that when they're kidding.
What would you say your kids would say? How about that?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like growing up, did you always, what were you always saying to them?
What did they say?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing?
Why are you doing that? What else? Didn't you do that tonight? Didn't you get that done? That was usually a phrase you used. You didn't get it done. You didn't do it.
Were you quiet in the house? Or were you, because you're not, I wouldn't describe you as a quiet person. Were you
Who?
quiet with
Me?
the kids growing up? Yes.
I was quiet.
Yeah? Like shy quiet? No.
Oh, I'd run after them if they were doing something they weren't supposed to be doing in the house. They never messed the house up all lot. They did, they had to clean it. I don't know. No, people weren't outlandish about their living, I don't think.
How many cars did you have? I remember.
Who?
How many cars did you have in your
How many what?
cars?
Cars?
Mm-hmm.
We never, well, you're going to laugh about this. He passed away in 49, wasn't it?
Yes, in 1972.
And the 3 years before that, he borrowed money to buy a new car, had a loan on a new car. And when he passed away, there was $300 to pay on it yet. And that's the first new car we had in 20-some years of marriage.
What was it? Do you remember?
It was a Ford. Ford, and I didn't like a Ford, but he went and looked at it and brought it home, and you know how that went. And so when he passed away, there was still a Ford in the garage, and Jim got it. At that point, I needed a car to go to work because I was working at Brown's, and they were in Beaverton, about 10, 12 miles out. And so I had to have a car. He bought me an old second-hand one when he was alive, but Jim took the Ford because he was going to school up at the Sioux, and I wanted him to have it, drive himself, because a few times he came home with another kid that lived in West Branch, and it was known after the fact that he drank and he used drugs. I said, "You're not driving with him anymore. You take that car up there." And so he did till he finished school. I didn't get it back. He had it till it was old, I guess.
Didn't you have a brown station wagon?
Who? No.
No? Grandma did, right?
She had a Monza.
Monza?
Me? Yes, that's where they get the FOD from.
Fodmobile.
That's where your FOD name came out?
Fodmobile.
Yeah, I was driving that Monza, small station wagon. Skip got through her work. Somebody drove it for so many miles and they turned it over to me because I wanted a different car. And they called it the Fodmobile. But somebody like us started to call me Foddy.
Do you know how she called you that?
She was trying to say fart, I think. She'd heard that word used, and she was only 3 years old probably when she started that. She called me old Foddy. And the Fod, and so they called that the Fodmobile. That's how that got started. Yeah, she was had a little bit of deviltry in her. Yeah.
I so thought it was on camera.
What's that?
I thought you were laying in bed with that.
Grandma, what was the saying?
Cat's pissing.
Yes.
The what?
You would always say when us kids would stay the night and we wouldn't we wouldn't stay quiet.
Well, if I were babysitting and try to get you to go to sleep, the word was, shh, shh, quiet, the cat's pissing. Kids would laugh. They would laugh.
Because we didn't know swear words.
That was the way to shut their mouths and go to sleep. And it didn't work. They just laugh. Of course they do laugh. Yeah. And?
Grandma, how would you describe you as a person?
Me?
Yeah.
Introvert.
Introvert?
No, I don't know. I'm not tight with what I have. I like people to enjoy things that if you give to them, or that's what, if you give them anything. I always did my share. If I was assigned something to do, I did or dealt was done, and that was always applied. I don't think. Well, I might have not done things sometime. I asked my mother that. She used to stop a lot of fights. And
What do you cherish most in your life?
Cherish most was bringing up children. And what you have, God has blessed you with them. Because there's always some year, some place, some time when one or the other has something going on, and you get to enjoy what they can do and in the process of growing up also. They are a part of you and your husband. And whatever you contribute in molecules, that's what these kids are going to be able to do. And so, I had a lot of good attributes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I was a hard worker. I was responsible for my age. I could sing. I got cards for speedy typing and shorthand. So I don't know from whom I got that from, but I just didn't sit back and let the chips fall. I wanted to excel.
Go get her.
And that was true of all of us kids. You know what I think? The five of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were Italian and felt somewhat discriminated by the Polish people in town, especially. They were half of the town. And, yeah, that's true. There were only 8 Italian families out of the whole population.
You little fighters.
So you were going to prove you could do something other than being a little dummy Italian. Yeah. Well, we all did. We all did well in school, better than the Polish people did. And we were all honor students. Verge missed it by a couple points, I think, because she had a boyfriend in the 10th grade. And that took some of her time. But, yeah, other than that, we all were, and we weren't pushed. We took it upon ourselves to do the best in school that we could. You didn't settle for C's, you worked towards an A. Yeah.
What advice would you give your grandchildren and great-grandchildren? What do you want them to learn about life, know about life, or make sure they haven't
You want to
a way
be
they're
happy.
learning? Okay.
I mean, you're going through a lot of years, most people, of ups and downs of life. And you're going to have downs. It's not going to be cherry all the way through your life. You're going to have setbacks. And you have to be able to handle all that without making yourself sick over it or whatever, thinking you're not worthy. And you have to be honest and responsible. If you take a job, you do what you're asked to do in that job. Sometimes people that direct you aren't honest about it, aren't good to you when it comes to doing things. I've experienced that. You don't always get credit for being a good worker either. But at least you've extended yourself and you can rest at ease about you applied yourself with what you had to work with. And everybody has that opportunity.
What do you want to make sure your kids know?
What do I know what?
What do you want to make sure your kids know?
Kids know?
Your children.
I loved them all. They made my life really what it was and what it's going to be. Yeah.
It's good, Grams.
I mean, if you've been married and had a family, you know what pleasures you get out of what your children get into, what they can do, what they're making you feel. And if you were the other way, just think at that time, what if I never had any children? I shouldn't say this. You look for things. I thought they were regrets in the end. Several jobs I had. Wait. Question?
If you had to write a novel, what would the title of your book be about your life?
know how I feel. Job insecurity is number one. It's not...
Title of your book.
You have to go out and work.
No, title of your book about your whole life. What would it be?
What happened to me?
What?
No, you come through high school with... I did everything to get a good job, and then they don't keep you.
You know, Mother.
And it's when you need it, when you don't have another income. Yeah. Children are 50% content in their lives. I can't change any of that, and they know what they have to work toward. You don't know when you venture into living with another person that had a whole different background than you, what's going to become of that? Are you going to be happy? We hope so, but then down the road you find bits and pieces that are causing problems. And it's probably, well, it's people that should have been matched and aren't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if back in the day they proposed. Do you remember how you got engaged? How long did you date him before you guys went down that path or talked about marriage, or you knew he was the one?
I arrived in Hastings, or Gladwin, 45. Take a job that was in September, I think, a civil service job for FHA. And I met him out at the Wooden Shoe, where all the young people went, because they had music and dancing out there. And beer. I didn't drink it, but they had beer. And it was an unassumed place to go for young people. And that's how I met him. And they say you should never, like Skip said, who told me that? You should never get serious about anybody you met at a bar. Yeah, Skip, somebody told me that. Who said that? Maybe it was a priest, I don't know. Anyhow, that's where it was, and I guess because he could dance and he could talk an arm or leg off of you, were the convincing things, but yeah, he wanted to get married. I said, no, not getting married, I can't marry non-Catholic.
So you said no to marrying him at first. So when did he propose? How long into dating him?
I said, you have to turn Catholic if you want to consider marrying me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was coming on to Lent, and you had to take 3 weeks or something of Catholic awareness, whatever they teach you. And at that point, yeah, they only had 2 weeks before Lenten time that priests could do it. Can't do it during Lent. So he did 2 weeks, and that was it. And I don't know if he got a paper for that or not. I don't remember that.
Did your parents and your family approve of him? Like him?
Well, I'll tell you this thing. I don't know if they did or didn't. They didn't see him often enough, or I didn't complain enough. But my mother used to write to me, and in one of her letters, they wanted to meet him, or they had met him already. And she was trying to find out if I was going to marry him, because she didn't think after 6 months you ought to be going with a gentleman any longer if they don't have plans for marriage. Right. And I said, well, I didn't know. We didn't have any plans. Well, if you're not going to have plans to marry them, you should quit going with them. Stop the togetherness. Which made sense. He didn't care, but he didn't like it, but I didn't care, really. And so we had to wait till after Lent. And I got married in February of the next year. I think it was February. His birthday was in February. Yeah. Yeah, so...
Do you remember the date you got married? February what?
think it was the 13th. His birthday was the 23rd. And it was snowing. Went up to Roger City for the wedding. My mother planned it, or my mother and Emma was at home then. Took care of all the meal planning and whatever there was, the evening program. That was over at Greeka's, that saloon in town. They had a floor upstairs where they had music and dancing. But
You get married in a church?
what's that?
You get married at the church?
I didn't hear you.
Did you get married at the church?
Yeah. Yeah, I got pictures of that coming out of the church.
What was the name of the church? Do you remember?
I'd say St. The heck was it? I want to say Cashmere, but it wasn't. Ignatius, St. Ignatius.
She remembers everything.
Who?
You remember everything.
Not always, no. St. Ignatius was the name, still is the name of it, I think. Yeah. Father who performed the wedding ceremony. Wasn't Skoronsky, he was the head honcho there, but I can't remember the priest that did it.
Did your dad walk you down the aisle?
Did I what?
Did your dad walk you down the aisle? Was he alive?
He must have. He was there. Coming out, I see he was there in the procession.
Do you remember your bridesmaids?
Oh, yeah.
Who were they, your sisters?
Emma was one. Emma was the best, what do you call it?
Matron of honor.
Matron of honor.
Mm-hmm.
Emma was the thing. And Verge was in it. And Margaret McKenna from Gladwin. I roomed with her when I was living in Gladwin, first year. And Louis Smolinski, went to school with her. Who else was there? The picture's right down there. Let me see that picture. I think I got them all. Virgin Louise and Margaret and
Yeah, that was it.
Emma.
Yeah.
Ray Flynn was the best man. Kenny was a young fellow that young people ran around with, Don Lyons. And who's the other guy? Lawrence.